All right. Good evening, everyone. I see you guys coming in. I know it's been a while since we had a webinar Wednesday, but like we have always done, I'd love to know where you're listening or watching from. So go ahead and open up the chat box and say hi, drop your location, because we would love to know. Ty, where are you today?
I'm in Atlanta.
And that's where you're from, right?
No, I'm from South Carolina, but I
Oh,
live.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, you're in Atlanta. Are you doing some trainings there?
I am. I have a training on Monday. I'll be training a staff virtually in Philadelphia. So,
Oh, nice, nice.
mhm.
I gotta say, I really love what you do, and I know I just told you that a few minutes ago, but I've been watching what you do for a while, and I think it's such a niche area. It's so
Mhm.
unique and definitely needed. There's a
Mhm.
lot of coaching and consulting programs out there that support owners of childcare businesses, but
Mhm.
what you do is definitely something that could possibly be overlooked, um,
Mhm.
especially if you're not like me. I'm not the director of any of my programs, and I try my best to provide support, to the directors of my centers, but I'm still their boss. So
Yes.
I can see how it might be beneficial for someone else to come in and be that coaching, like that helping hand from the outside looking in.
Mhm. Yeah. As I do training with directors, oftentimes I hear it all the time. Like, I'm happy to have an owner that got me a trainer because they do need help. My vision was when I first started is that so many times because you have a director, you expect them to know everything, but everybody has an area in which they need help in.
Right, exactly, exactly. All right, let's see. We got some people from Atlanta, where you are, Mississippi, New York City, Pennsylvania, Philly, Indianapolis, Florida. So we're all over the US right now.
Good job. Good job.
um, I myself just came from New York. I was visiting my centers the past 5 days because we're getting ready to hopefully open in less than 2 weeks. um, I really could have used your services, and I wish I would have thought about it beforehand so I could have booked you. But can we get started with you telling everybody, if they don't already know you, like who you are, what you do, what kind of things you offer?
Okay. I am Tahim Clark, known as the Childcare Whisperer, and I provide services to child care centers such as classroom staging, staff development, uh, uh, staff development workshops for teachers. But my main thing that I do is that I train directors on how to be effective directors. Now, if that means falling back in love with being a director, then I will help you do that. But that is my niche, so to say. I help directors be effective directors.
Nice. That's good to know. And if anybody wants to look more into specifically what you're doing, what you've got going on, and how to book you, they can go to the childcarewhisperer.com, right? Do you want
Yes,
to tell us
ma'am.
a little about the site and how to navigate it?
Absolutely. So it is the childcarewhisperer.com, and this is the homepage, and you will go to services, and you will hover over services and click over the one that interests you. Once you go click the services that interest you, all of them will lead you to a booking where you can host a 30-minute consultation so that we can discuss exactly what it is that you want specifically. Um, the service down here that you see where it says help is here, it is my intern director service. And or if you're in a place where you don't have a director and you want a director so that you can work on the business instead of in the business, I have a service where I will serve as your interim director until you're able to fill that position.
And I'm sure that's very much needed right
Oh
now,
yeah.
especially with everyone being short staffed. And finding someone of director qualification that has the dedication to wanting to improve the program is extremely challenging, I can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I have been, thank God, booked through the end of the year. So yeah, it's definitely needed. Thank you. Thank you.
Love that. Okay. All right. So this is going to be usual. Sometimes with our webinar Wednesdays, we have presentations or something for you to sit and listen to. But on occasion, we have some that are Q&A sessions, and this happens to be just that. So I want to let you guys know that there is a chat box here on this webinar. You can open the chat box, or actually better yet, a Q&A button. You should see at the bottom of your screen a Q&A button that you can click on and submit any questions that you might have for Ty. Ty, do you have anything in particular that you enjoy talking about the most? Or maybe we can start off with some frequently asked questions that you often get from other owners or administrators.
Yes. So I can start with the question as in, now that I'm a director, what should I do? Like, what is expected of me? Because this is the thing that I'm running into. A lot of owners are serving as directors, and they want to step out of that role and hire a director. But because they've been the director for so long, they don't know, what to expect, what should be, what they should receive from the director, so forth and so on. So I tell them often to look at themselves as now the boss, right? And you know what you did when you were running your center, and you have to expect those same things from the director. And instead of being in there, you now should require reports from that individual. So whatever the situation is, or whatever he or she is over, you have to require reports from that individual to hold them accountable.
Okay, that sounds good. I agree. So when you guys registered, everybody that's watching, there was an area where you could submit questions. So I'm gonna go through, if it's okay with you, Ty, some of the questions that some people already submitted. And then just so you all know that are watching, the Q&A box is still open. So add your questions in there, and I guess we'll go through them as they are received. So one of the questions that I see in here is, how do you delegate things to administrators? How do you choose what to delegate, basically?
So I look at people and their strong areas, right? I look and see what do they do the best. Like, well, even when I'm hiring teachers, I ask them, because what I've noticed in when dealing with directors is that because we are in, for an example, now being that we're in a crunch for teachers, we're just, we're bringing them in and we're putting them where we need them to be. But I believe in asking people, what area do you believe you can be effective in? And that is how I go from there. So I am an observer. I watch everything. So when it comes down to my administrative team, I watch and see what areas do they perform the best in. Maybe this person loves to do the weekly bulletins, or or good with the staff, so that he or she can be over the staff. So that's how I delegate those things that we have in order. If it is something that I just have to take on, then I take it on, because my main goal is to make sure that everybody is happy when they come to work and that they can do their job effectively.
Got it. Okay, I love that. Another question that I see is, what qualities should you look for in hiring a director for your center? Which I'm sure is another popular question.
I think this varies based on each person. For me, I have to know how quick this person knows how to. If you follow me on social media, I use the term jump in all the time. So I have to see how quickly can this person respond, how quickly can this person jump in, and how do they respond to stress? Because it is a stressful role and you're wearing so many hats. So you have to know how to respond to it. And back to the first question, how to delegate those things so that you aren't so stressed out. So I will look at a person of how well organized they are, how they respond to stress. And on top of that, punctuality is on top of everything for me. So I look at those things as a whole. And to put the icing on the cake, I need to see your bubbly energy. I need to see your smile. I need to see all of those things when coming from when applying for a director. And even when I'm coaching directors, I look for all of that. And I will politely meet with the owner and say, I don't think this is a good fit for you, for your center. I think you may want to look at another candidate. But those are the things that I look at when I'm looking at for directors or at training with directors.
Awesome. And I agree. I'm thinking about a director for one of my centers right now who also happens to be our operations manager. I remember I knew that she was right for the role and maybe a little bit too dedicated when her car broke down on the highway one day on her way to work. And she she got out the car and called an Uber and showed up 10 minutes later and left her car. I was like, I think you can come in late. It's okay. Go take care of your car. But you definitely need to have that dedication.
Yeah, but that to me, that's a great quality. Like
Yeah.
it's what you were saying to be above and beyond, but
Yeah.
it's a great quality because then when you have those teachers that come back and say, well, I couldn't get to work today, I had car trouble. It really makes you look at them and say, okay.
Yeah, yeah. That excuse doesn't always fly if they're calling about car trouble in advance when things like Uber exist, there's so many.
Right.
Um, all right, so we have another question that says, let me see. Help, she put help, I'm the director and owner. This is my first center. How do I separate the two? I guess, how does she separate doing owner role and responsibilities and the director role and responsibilities? What do you say about
I'm going to give okay. So I believe that if you're serving as the director, then while you are serving as the director, nobody should know that you are the owner. Because then it becomes that battle that you're speaking of. So if you're serving as the director, serve as the director. They should not come to you, as, oh, I'm going to go, you're the owner, because then when you step out of the role, they're going to feel like they have that personal connection with the owner. And when the director says something, they feel like it can go directly to you. So they should look at you as if you're solely the director, so that you are setting the stage for the person when you decide to step back to be able to run your business effectively. If they know that they have direct contact with the owner, you're going to be away and still receiving phone calls that you don't want to receive, that your director could handle. So I would say act accordingly when you are doing whichever one you are being at that moment. Be that, and don't let them intertwine with each other.
I could not agree with you more. And Annette in the chat box just said, how do you hide being the owner? I'm going to tell you, Annette, I do it. And it's not that I hide from our families and not I don't want to show that I'm the owner, but just as Ty said, I don't want parents trying to contact me. When I first left the role of being the director of our first location, it took a while for families to adjust to, like, oh, let me just talk to Dani, and it couldn't, not for like incidents or issues or big problems. It could be that they don't want to pay the $10 late fee that they're supposed to pay, or they need an extra 20 minutes to get to the program and pick up their child, and the director is rightfully giving them a hard time about it because it's in our policy that they have to be on time, and they figure they'll just talk to me and get away with it. So I am constantly telling my admin team to stop bringing my name up when it comes to not knowing the answer for something, or if a parent asks a question that they don't want to themselves shut down. So as an example, they might say something like, oh, this is what we're supposed to do, but let me check with Danielle. And that's something that I hate, because if they check with me, and I don't know about you or anybody that's an owner on this call, but oftentimes in the past, I could very much be a pushover. And because I'm the owner, I can call the shots. and I don't want to call the shots in the wrong direction, right? So there is a way to kind of just push your administrators to the forefront, inform them of all your policies, and hold them accountable for enforcing them.
And I would like to add to that, because you're from a director standpoint, I was the director of a center and she was privately owned. And I am a rule follower. I'm going to read the handbook before I start, both the parent handbook and the teacher's handbook. And it was times where, because the owner was there previously, like Dani said, she allowed them to do, XYZ. They can come in 5 minutes late when the cutoff time is 9 o'clock. They can do all of these things. But me, when you hire me as a director, I'm going to hold you accountable to what the handbook says. And they always felt like they could go back to the owner and make that phone call and get things changed, which in return made me feel like my hands were tied. So to answer your question, I don't think it's a matter of hiding per se. I think it's a matter of just serving in the role. Like if you're serving in the, I think the problem is that when you're an owner, sometimes you want to publicize that you're the owner. And that's like being the owner and saying I'm the boss all the time. We don't, we really don't have to know that. Like if you're just serving in the director role, nobody have to know that you're behind the scenes calling the shots also. Only thing they can see is that you're enforcing the policies and procedures that they have already agreed to and signed.
Right. And if you think about it, like when you go to stores or restaurants or whatever, if you ever have a problem with something, you don't say, oh my goodness, let me speak to the owner. You say, where's the manager?
Where's the manager?
The manager. And some of us have managers in our childcare program, but most of the time that role is called a director. So you would need, I would suggest that you create a chain of command in your program so that people, when they have an issue, they can ask for the correct person, and that person doesn't have to be you for the little incidental things that might arise.
Yeah, I agree. And having your admin team know that, like Dani said, don't call that you don't have to call my name. Like if there's something that you need to get confirmation from as a director, just simply say, you know what, Mom, I'm going to look into this for you some more, and I'll have an answer for you. Either I call you back later today or I have an answer for you tomorrow. And then you can meet with, Dani outside of it, just to get your answer and present it to the parent. Maria is saying she does not want people to know that she's the manager. And I get it. Most people don't, because it creates that your phone would constantly be ringing if they know that you're the owner and that they have direct access to you. That's just how it is.
Right. And it goes back to what you said a few minutes ago about asking for reports. Right. So you delegate certain things and ask for your administrators to report back to you as the owner on those things. I definitely have my phone ringing a lot less now because we put systems into place to make sure that if our administrators don't know the answer to a question and they genuinely do have to ask me before getting back to a parent, they know the time and the place to do that. It's not immediate unless it's an emergency. But let's go on to another question because we've been covering that one for like 10 minutes. We actually have one in the Q&A box right now. Dar wants to know, as a director, how can I train staff members effectively, especially when it comes to meeting schedules, and I guess how often would be good to do those types of trainings?
So I suggest having staff meetings at least once a month. And I think and when I'm training directors, I tell them nobody is going to do their job effectively if you're not holding them accountable. So although they have schedules on the wall and we can say it until we are blue in the face, if we're not holding them accountable to sticking to those schedules, they're not going to do it. I'm training 2 directors now, and the second week I wrote them up. I wrote them up because I'm training you. I presented to them like this. I'm over you, holding you accountable. So now it's your job to hold your staff accountable. And when the staff is not doing what they're supposed to do, once again, like Dani said, that chain of command, I'm not going to bypass you to go to the teacher. I'm going to come to you because it's your job to hold them accountable. So I would say have the staff meeting, explain to them why the schedule is important, and then hold them accountable to sticking to their schedule.
Agreed. I agree. Rika in the Q&A box wants to know, how can I try to keep teachers that are amazing but are not being paid enough and they are unhappy? So I'm guessing Rika might be the director and she knows that some of her teachers are unhappy and not being paid enough.
So Rika, this is a challenging thing in childcare, and unfortunately, it's something that we deal with often. However, this is what I believe in. I believe in that oftentimes, not all the time, oftentimes, if people are in an environment where they feel happy, then the pay doesn't always matter to them. So what I would suggest to you is creating an environment where they feel like they belong. And a lot of times that means, just like I said previously, jumping in. When teachers see that the director would jump in and talk to them and get to know them and build a bond with them, and come in some days and everything is happy and jolly. Prime example today. Although I'm training the directors, I am constantly in the classroom. And I walk in every morning. It's good morning. How are you? A teacher said, I'm feeling better, but I'm not my best. I'm not happy. So you know what I did? I stayed in that room, I know, almost 20 minutes until I saw her smiling, until I saw her mood change, until I did all of that. And that way, she felt that I cared. It was no longer, me being over her and giving and asking her to do things. It was me building a relationship with her. So oftentimes, it's just like when you're in your natural relationship, you may not be getting everything that you want, but what you have, you're okay with because those things matter. So it's about building those relationships and making sure that you are letting your staff know that you appreciate them in all the ways that you can.
Great. Yeah, I agree. That's a wonderful thing that you did for her, and I'm sure that changed her day completely.
Yeah, I got in, I rearranged the classroom with her and everything. And by the time I left, she was, oh my God, just her whole mood had changed. So.
Okay. And then speaking of that, like you mentioned that you were just in the classroom for 20 minutes this morning with that one teacher alone. A question that came in upon registration is, should directors work in the classroom, and what's a proper director schedule? And this question seems like it was sent in with a little bit of frustration because there's a lot of punctuation. Um, and I think that probably comes from, I do know that there's oftentimes administrators who are told or asked that they've got to go in the classrooms and they probably don't expect it, or they think that the role has this responsibility and not this. So could you speak on that a little? Should directors be working in the classroom?
So yes. Yes, you should be. I don't want to use the term working in the classroom. I want to say, should directors jump into a classroom? Absolutely. Now, I'm going to present the other side to that. I was working at a center, and I was the assistant director at the time. And every time the teacher was out, it was me that had to go in the classroom. But the director was the one that gave them the time off or whatever have you. So I felt as if you're going to do that, then you should work the schedule out where I don't have to be in a room. I shouldn't be a must that I have to be in the room serving as a teacher. So I do feel that directors should be in every room engaging and building a bond with not only with the teachers, with the students also. So yes, there's sometimes when you may have to be the cook, you may have to be the bus driver. That's just what comes with the territory. And guess what? And when you leave out of those rooms, you still have director stuff to do, right? You still have payroll to get in. You still have, numbers to manage. All of these things, it just comes with the territory. And I speak on that in my book that I wrote about how I look at the workload as a plate, right? And a plate with sections. And you eat accordingly. And what you can't eat, you just cover up for the next day. and you start off with that plate again. So yes, directors have to be in the classroom. Now, I'm not saying that your name should say, the pre-K room, Miss so and so. No, but I do believe that you should be able to jump in and assist at any time.
Got it. I agreed, definitely. And then speaking on that program that had you working as the assistant director, but really the substitute teacher, you should have substitute teachers if possible. You should have a call list if possible. I know it's not possible for me where I'm located. Having a call list doesn't work, but we do have floating staff members where it's just one or two extra people per center that if they don't really have a place, they just go wherever they're needed in that moment. And for programs of my size, there's always somewhere to go because there's always at least one, usually at least two or three staff members that are absent. So rather than banking on the director being the one to fill the whole entire day every time someone's absent in a classroom, have an extra, if you notice that that's a trend, have an extra person on staff.
And in addition to that, because I 100% agree with you. In addition to that, everybody on your team should know how to work every room. Just because they are the pre-K teacher, they should not be totally oblivious as to how to run the infant room. Because if push comes to shove, you may need that pre-K teacher to fill in your infant room. So therefore, they should know how to run every room in your building. Especially now, like times are hard when it comes down to finding staff. So if you have those staff members that are there, they need to know every room in your building in case you have to move them around.
Agreed. And I just want to make sure everybody's aware because you mentioned your book a couple minutes ago. It is on your website, right? This is available for purchase now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so go ahead and get you a copy. And the link to, actually, let me go ahead and put that in the chat box now. And the link will be sent out to Ty's website along with this replay. Someone else upon registration asked, what do you think about volunteering for the director or an assistant director position to gain management skills?
Meaning, so they're not working in childcare, but they want to volunteer.
Let me see if I know this person. No, I don't think she's my client yet, but I guess maybe she's not working in childcare yet, and considering volunteering.
I suggest volunteering. I don't know if someone will let you volunteer to be their director, but if you find a center in your area that will allow you to volunteer and you shadow that person, absolutely shadow them to become a director. I don't know if you're in childcare or not, but I would always suggest to childcare center directors to start in the classroom because I believe that there's a certain level of respect and a certain level of, you just serve differently when you started in a classroom. You feel different. You sympathize differently in certain areas when you've been in a classroom. So I don't know if that's your case. So most definitely, if you can volunteer, if you just want to come in and jump straight to a director role, I would suggest you being in the classroom first and then going into the director role.
I agree. It's hard to lead a team of people that are doing a job that you're supposed to be supervising if you can't say you've successfully done it. Mm-hmm. I definitely would recommend that if you're not able to find a position, like a paid position to, like, let's just assume that they already have the childcare experience in the classroom. If they have that and they just can't find an available job and are willing to volunteer, I think what Ty said about shadowing would be a great option, to ask if you're available to just observe and learn from a program. And that might take a little bit of asking around to get approved to different programs, because I'm not sure of how many would be willing to let a stranger come
Yeah, and I agree.
and
I
just
agree with Maria. Maria says start in a classroom volunteering, even if you're not a teacher. And I 100% agree with. And that way, while
yeah,
you're in there, of course, you're going to see the director, so you can watch certain things, that he or she does while you're there.
right, exactly. And then that opens up the door for some more trust to then let you in the office. I don't think knocking on the door and saying, "Can I just sit in your office for free?" is gonna work. Um, all right, let me see. Scheduling starting
Um,
off.
it's one in the Q&A box.
Okay, yeah. If it's been over 10 years since working in daycare but want to open a center, how would I go about this, or what classes are offered if the volunteer option isn't available? Um, Go ahead, Ty. You have
If it's been over 10 years, I would suggest, and I know he or she may not want to do this, but I would suggest at least applying to, if not an AD role, at least maybe a receptionist or office manager or something to get in there, because 10 years, a lot has changed in 10 years. So you want to make sure that you're in the know of that. I don't know if you're willing to go back in the classroom. If not, I will look for those other manager positions that you can learn from while you're there.
Yeah, and then asking about the classes that are offered, it really depends on your state. Every state is very different. Some are similar, like if they're regionally around the same area. But depending on where you're located, there's different orientations that like your state licensing agency might have available for you that discuss licensing regulations. And some state websites are so robust where they have like step-by-step guides of how to open a daycare. So if you are saying that you haven't stepped foot in a daycare program in the past decade, then definitely check in with regulations, because they change all the time. And if you need help accessing your regulations, if reach out to Ty, and if or you could reach out to me, because I also walk people through their state regulations. If you're in the US, if you're not in the US, I can't help you. Not right now.
And I know specifically for Georgia, we have a director's course that we have to take in order to become a certified director. So I don't know, like she said, I don't know what state you're in, so I don't know if your state offers that, but we have a course that literally walks you through everything as it pertains to being a director. I've taken it, and there's also another course that walks you through how to open up a childcare center from beginning to the end. And I've taken that also. So I would suggest you looking, like she said, looking there to see if your state offers those things.
Right. Okay, we have another question. What is a good accountability system for teachers that are late consistently, besides sending them home?
And I like this question because I just had my trainees come up with a process for that too. So I would suggest that you come up with a disciplinary action, like what happens if they're late the first time, what happened if they're late the second time, what happened if they're late the third time, and stick to it. If it's going to be a verbal written warning, then you do that. If the next one is going to be a warning, then you do that. And the next time, if you're going to, send them home for a half a day, or whatever you come up with, I would suggest you coming up with that and sticking to it and holding them accountable.
Yeah, I second that. You should have written policies for what is cause for a write-up. Every program should have, no matter how big or small, should have a handbook, personnel policies, and parent policies. And as far as the personnel policies, you should have a section in that handbook that talks about like the different things that could lead to disciplinary action, which include write-ups and including termination, and I believe that every action that goes against your policy could result in a write-up, because all your employees should know your policy. And for us, if they are consistently late, just like Ty said, we have disciplinary actions that follow that. If you get 3 write-ups within a school year, for my programs, it's immediate termination. So you just got to enforce your policies. I know we have a hard time doing that in childcare, but doing that is really
But you know what,
helpful.
Dani, just to have a brief conversation with you, what I'm seeing while I'm training directors, it's not that they don't have that, the childcare center doesn't have the policy. It's that the director themselves aren't following the policy, or they don't know the policy to even enforce it. So that's what I'm seeing as I'm training directors. And honestly, like I was saying earlier about that weak area, some directors are not comfortable holding teachers accountable. They're not comfortable meeting with them and saying, hey, you broke this policy, this is your write-up or whatever you want to call it. Let's make some efforts to correct the issue. Some of them aren't comfortable doing that.
Yeah, it is definitely an uncomfortable situation at times, but I think that's where, if you're an owner on this webinar right now, that's where you come into place with holding your directors accountable. I have those conversations with my administrative team all the time. Like, don't come to me complaining about what our staff is doing when you're supposed to be holding them accountable for what they're doing wrong, right or wrong. So we've got to put our big girl panties on, our big underwear on, and hold people accountable. Otherwise, the quality of our program is going to suffer.
Absolutely, every time.
Right. We've got another question. Any advice on setting strict boundaries as a director that works hands-on along with the staff? Oh, that's a good one. I like
yes, that. It is. So I believe in, I call them work relationships, where you have to build a work relationship with your staff. That's it. When I do staff meetings, I do a game, and it's my team building game. But my game is I give everybody a sheet of paper, and I say, write down one thing about you that nobody knows. We put them in a bowl or whatever I have. I mix them up and I pull one out. And there was one time when everybody looked like at each other and say, they know everything about me. And my immediate response was, well, that's your first problem, because nobody that you work with should know everything about you. That's not what you're there for. You're not there to make friends. So nobody should know everything about you who you work with. So I would suggest you building that work relationship, meaning that you understand them, you sympathize with them. Yeah, they're going to tell you some personal things, and you just look at them and you say, oh, okay, I hope you see with that. If I can assist you in any way, please let me know. Carry on with the day. Because if you get too personal with them, then they're going to start slacking at their job. And that's a whole nother ball game that you don't want to play.
I have conflicting feelings about this, because if you're on this webinar and you know me and you've been following me for a while, you will know that our current operations manager, who is the lead position within my company, is one of my really good friends. And every Saturday I try to host a open Q&A on my Instagram stories. And someone asked me a few weeks ago, her name is Gigi, my operations manager. So they were like, how do you separate like your work relationship and your friendship with Gigi? And I had to really sit and think about it, that like, I think it's a little different when you're friends or family members first, and then that person comes on as your employee. I think it's really hard to separate the two in that way. But for me, with her, she is someone that I brought on as an employee first, and there's no way that I'm going to risk the quality of my business or services for honestly any relationship. So I think it's important to know that if you're going to be friendly with your staff, you should know when to not turn the switch off on friendliness, but know when it's time to be professional and to be strict. There are definitely times where I've had to provide disciplinary action or write-ups or have very uncomfortable conversations with my staff. And if you're someone that's not good at that at all, then you probably shouldn't be too friendly, just like you said. It's going to be difficult, and and nobody really knows that every single thing about me, because if they did, it would be hard to maintain that professionalism. So I agree with you
Yeah.
there. I think we have a question in the chat box. How many directors should a center have? I know I've worked in centers with one director and another center with 4. What's a good number?
So I want to answer that, but there was a question Ladoris Lee asked, as a director, how do you approach owners that do not want to hold the staff accountable, but you do?
Oh, I didn't see that one. Yeah, go ahead.
So part of me wants to answer this question, and part of me doesn't, because I've been in the situation where, as a director, that she did not want to hold her staff accountable, and it puts you in a horrible place, and it makes you feel as if you're not being an effective director. I want to say this. I want to say, meet with your I call it your direct report, and express your concerns and how you would like to move forward. Now, if that doesn't work, you don't see any change, unfortunately, you may have to seek other employment, because if that's something and let me tell you why I say that, because I know somebody is on or owner is on like, oh no. For me, I'm big on being happy where I work. And I can't have the employees running haywire while I'm trying to run a successful business. And that even goes back to when we were talking earlier about knowing the roles. Like, are you going to be the owner, or are you going to be the director? Because if you want to be the director, then you need to be the director, and then you can let the staff do what they want to do. However, if you're going to have a director that is constant, that is running your program every day, there comes a time where you have to back up and allow that person to run your program. And when you feel that he or she is wrong, then you meet with them and hold them accountable. So I would say meet with them, meet with your direct report, and present your feelings to them. And if it does not change how they interact or how they hold their staff accountable, then maybe you want to seek other employment. That is my opinion. Someone else may have something totally different.
Yeah. And I think an issue with that not holding staff accountable is the fear that if they leave, like there's a shortage, at least especially right now, there's a shortage of staff, right? It's hard to find new people. Go ahead.
Let me tell you why this subject is like burning in me, because I literally am conversing with someone right now. I talk to this person every day, and she owns a childcare center. And it's not only her directors, it's her staff also. And she's saying the very same thing that you're saying. Well, Ty, if I do that, they're going to quit. But listen, if someone is acting like that has been with you the entire time, like if they've been with you prior to COVID, it didn't just start. So somewhere along the line, you've allowed it, and now your hands are tied because you didn't correct it then. So that's just how I look at the situation. People, and it comes to a point where even when it comes down, it's at the end of the day, this is your business, and I refer to your business as your baby. And I tell her, so are you really going to allow someone, because you feel like your hands are tied and you won't find help, to run your business in the ground, meaning mistreat your baby, giving them the power? Or are you going to hold yourself accountable? And as the owner, you may have to jump back in, serve as the director, and ask your director to step into the classroom until you find someone else. That may be the case for the sake of your business. That's how I look at the situation.
No, that completely makes sense. That's kind of where I was going with it too. And not to mention, yes, the business is, for many of us, the business is our baby. But we're actually taking care of babies, people. People's children, their most prized possession. You don't want miserable people in your program every day. You want people that are happy. And if you have one or two staff members that are bringing down the morale and the company culture for everyone, or people see that they're getting away with X, Y, and Z, when you hold everybody else accountable, it's a real big problem. And what I was getting ready to say before was if your program, it might be a little more challenging than it usually is right now to find staff, but I do believe that you should be trying to recruit staff continuously, even when you don't need them. Have a place on your website where you're accepting applications, set up an Indeed account, have just a job posting up there, even if you don't necessarily need something right away. Don't wait until the last minute to try to hire somebody, or wait until somebody quits to try to find somebody, because not everybody's going to give you 2 weeks notice that they're leaving. And you might not be able to, like, if you see something that requires a staff member to be let go immediately, you got to do that immediately, and somebody else has got to step in. So it has been really challenging for me in my programs to have just a stack of resumes sitting ready to start right now. But in the past, that's what we used to do. And hopefully, in the upcoming months, we can get back to that level of interest in employment. But yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And then I want to make sure you can answer Sahar's question: how many directors should a center have? She said she worked in a program where there was one director and one where there was 4.
Yeah. So the minimum that I work in as a director is 2. However, if anyone follows me closely, I recently resigned from Creme de la Creme, and we had a total of 3 directors and a office assistant, like an office manager. So I think it really just depends on the structure of the program, and how that owner or whomever has it runs that program or wants the program laid out. I do think that it can be done with two people. However, it makes the job easier when you have like we had an executive director, then we had the director of curriculum, then we had the director of administration, then we had the office manager. That office manager was always up front, because they believe that someone should always be up front to greet parents. Well, oftentimes the director can't always be up front. So that office manager was the person that was always up front. I was the director of curriculum. I was over the teachers, the lesson plans, making sure that they're okay, they have what they need in the classroom. And the director of administration was over the building and, during the tours, all of those things. And the executive director made sure that, the monies and stuff was okay. All of those things that, that the director does.
Yeah. And if I put my little 2 cents on there, I do think it's nice and very, very helpful and advantageous to your business to have multiple administrators.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that I just put out a video about it last week, exactly the dollar amount that I'm going to be spending on my admin team this upcoming school year. And the reason for that is because as we all know, in childcare, we all wear so many different hats. As your business continues to grow, there's more hats that develop, and it's hard. It's hard to manage all the responsibilities by yourself as an owner director, or even especially as just a director who does not own any parts of the business and is expected to wear all the hats,
Mm-hmm.
So if you are a director watching this or listening to this, maybe if you feel comfortable enough, you can ask your boss or the owner of the program if they would be willing to invest in, maybe not someone with the director role, but like an office assistant or an administrative assistant or somebody to help with paperwork or simply answering the phone in the door. I think I watched one of your Instagram videos a few weeks ago, Ty, where you mentioned that one program you were working in treated the office like a classroom, and somebody always had to be in the office. Mm-hmm. Right? Did you mention that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone always had to be up there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's exactly how it is in my programs too. If I notice that someone's ringing up the doorbell and nobody's coming to it, or if the phone is ringing off the hook and nobody's answering and that's consistent, that's a problem for me. Because every time the phone rings, that's money calling, right?
Mhm.
That's if you're an employee and not necessarily the owner, that's extra bonuses that you could possibly be getting, or extra supplies, or a lot of times many of our problems could be solved with full enrollment and good income to pay for the quality products and things and curriculums and services and people that we need to help run the business. So it's important to treat every doorbell that rings and every phone call importantly. And if you need help with that, speak up and ask the program owner if it's possible. And sorry, side note, one more thing with that. The program, like the assistant, office assistant or admin assistant, doesn't necessarily need to have the same qualifications that you would as the director. They might not even, depending on your state, like, or, the business might not even need childcare experience. They just need good customer service. So you might be able to find someone for minimum wage, or like not, you don't have to pay them a lot where it's a significant line item on the budget if that's a concern for your owners. Just throwing some tips out there.
And I would like to do another one if you allow me.
Of
Even
course.
with your current staff, like we talked about retaining staff. I just literally spoke with the owner this week and I said we need to sit down and create more positions. You can have a team lead and that staff member could be the team lead, and you can offer them what, 10 more cent, 15 more cent, as to bringing in a whole entire new person. Just a suggestion.
Agreed. Absolutely. Well, we've got about 5 minutes left, and I want to ask you, Ty, because I know we're not going to be. There's literally like 20 more questions in the registration sheet that I'm looking at. How can people get in contact with you if they do have like a simple question, or is there any place where people can connect with you?
Absolutely. You can message me on Instagram. You can email me at info@thechildcarewhisperer.com. Even when you go to my website, it's a box down there that says contact us, and it comes directly to my phone. I have one now since we've been on the call, and I thank you for that. I saw it pop up, but I haven't had the time to read it. But that little contact box comes straight to my email that's on the phone, and the email is down there also. And those emails come to my phone. There's even my number there if you would like to speak with me about an issue or about a question that you have.
Okay, perfect. And if you don't mind, honestly, I'm a little curious because I might want to book you for next month if you're free. Could you explain, in the last few minutes that we have, what it is that you do or offer when you do come? Like, is it that people can separately book just setting up the classrooms, or can they book a total package where you set up the classrooms, observe how the program runs, do a staff training? How does that work, if you can remind us?
Yes, absolutely. So all of those, so each service has is provided separately. However, I do offer packages such as I have a service that's called a Day with the Whisperer. And it's where I come to your center and I can either work a 6-hour day or a 4-hour day. Within those hours, I am observing. I do mean observing. I am observing and I'm going in and out of the classrooms and I'm
Don't ask him to do any work.
No. I will work, but when I say observing, I mean that I am looking, because what I do at the end of that day is I sit down with the owner and I tell her, what I have observed. But during that day, I think it comes with like a one rearranged classroom. I do model for the teachers while I'm there, because while I'm there, it's very important for me to ask, well, what are you struggling with in your classroom? And most of them, the number one is problem children. So you know what, I say, hey, sit back, I'll take over whatever they're doing at that time. And I also have in-person coaching where I coach the directors, but I'm not just, I don't just limit myself to the directors, because I need the director to know that this whole building is your responsibility. I don't know how it is in other states as far as like with the state, but the director's name is presented to the state. So anything that happens at that center falls under the director's name, and that follows them. So I want them to understand that you have to know your whole building, from the cook to the janitor, and you have to hold all of them accountable. So I get in. Yes, I have a different services where, some of them come with stage classrooms and some of them don't, but all of them are individual, but I do have packages also.
Got it. And just out of curiosity, when you do the staff trainings or you do the observations, how do you feel like you are usually received by the teachers?
To be honest with you, and I'm gonna be, this is me being very transparent, Miss Dani. When I do a training, I am nervous. I'm nervous because I don't want anyone to ever feel like I'm coming in to belittle them or make them feel like they're not doing their job the right way. I am simply there to help. That's all. I'm simply there to help and provide feedback. But I am blessed to say that every person that I have ever worked with has been phenomenal. And it's because I don't do this. What works for me, it may not work for everyone else, but I don't come up with that whole long PowerPoint and they're just sitting there and they're just watching me or listening to me talk. No, it's very interactive. I did one Sunday, and I think the director is on because she put a video up on Instagram. But when I did one Sunday, I called people up. We're acting things out. Whatever, they ask me questions, and it's just very hands-on. So they get to receive it more. They get the benefit of it more.
Got it. Okay, that's good to know. I will definitely be in contact with you to see if you can make some time out of your busy schedule to come to my programs, because I'd love to have you. And
Thank you so much.
everybody else, as a reminder, I'm looking through his website right now to see his prices, but go on over to the childcarewhisperer.com, click on that services button, and make sure you sign up for something. And don't forget to pick up Ty's book, okay? And I did drop in the chat box, if you look in the chat, his email address, and of course it's at the bottom of his website if you would like to reach him. Is there anything else you want to say before we go?
I put it in the chat. I said thank you all for joining, but from the bottom of my heart, I really want to say thank you all for joining. If I can be of any assistance to you, please never, ever hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you all so much.
All right. Well, thank you, Ty. It was great talking to you, and I will probably hit you up in a few minutes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good night. Bye, everybody.